people no longer bound by their non-disclosure agreements. What can you now disclose? My best friend worked at a roadside attraction near Chattanooga, Tennessee, called Ruby Falls. There's something else called Ruby Falls elsewhere in the country. It's supposedly a waterfall inside a cave. Of course, the trail to the cave is redone with all sorts of rock brought in from around the world. I think they've owned up to that part now. But the waterfall itself is barely a trickle naturally, and then only in the wetter season. They've run a pipe up there to supplement the falls, hidden by cracks and crevices and cemented over, and powered by a pump off to the side, which you can't hear when the water is splashing down from 100 feet overhead. It's 99% from the city of Chattanooga, or maybe Lookout Mountain, municipal water supply. Of course, with such a wet area, old electrical wires going back to the Great Depression, and 300 feet underground, it sputters, or shorts out and stops every now and then. The first rule in the falls room is make everybody leave immediately if the power goes out, not for safety, but because the fable agreed upon will be shown as fake. The LED effects when you first walk into the cavern are a bit much. I live just up the road, and it is the least recommended tourist attraction when I have guests. Go to the aquarium. The secret ingredient in Jimmy John's tuna salad is Kikkoman soy sauce. The book you are reading might only be a bestseller because the author had enough money to buy thousands and thousands of copies, have them shipped to a warehouse for storage, and eventually destroyed. Always wondered how shitty books were on the nibs and who was buying them. I worked at a small bakery in New York City when I was younger. Every morning the bakery would take their day-old cupcakes and deliver them to a tour company that did Sex and the City tours. The tour company would pass our cupcakes off as cupcakes from Magnolia, and significantly much more popular bakery. I went on that tour with my ex-wife and ate one of those cupcakes. Is that why she's an ex-wife? When I was fired from Auntie Anne's in 2010, I signed a 10-year non-compete NDA contract, promising not to detail the baking secrets or work for another pretzel establishment. Well, that ended this year, so now I can run out and start a pretzel store because the secret I was keeping was making pretzels literally requires two products, one of them being water and the other a large bag of pretzel meal/dust/powder. Quite literally anyone with $2,500 can start a pretzel stand and make perfectly fine pretzels. It's not difficult whatsoever. Edit: I signed the letter when I was hired, but I got a copy with my termination letter. Well, you forgot to say what the secret browning agent is that all the pretzels get dipped into before they go on the sheet and into the oven. It's baking soda and water. Mystery solved. Also lemonade 2, 4, 8, refrigerate. Baking soda also works in caramelizing onions in a hurry. Just a little, it increases the Maillard reaction substantially. I used to work for a large gas station chain. I worked at its warehouse where it creates a lot of the donuts. The room was really hot, so we were always sweating. There's some machines where the donuts get glazed in chocolate. They're these small machines, they look almost like a barbecue grill. They always wanted us to be super fast glazing the donuts. Working in a hot room and working at super fast speeds, it was natural for a lot of people's sweat to just drip in the chocolate underneath us. Never eat the chocolate donuts from a gas station. Honestly, if the worst thing in those donuts is human sweat, I'm impressed. McDonald's made me sign a NDA regarding a robbery that took place during a graveyard shift. They made me take a fucking polygraph test because they thought my ex and I were involved due to the simple fact that I had stopped by that day to pick up some documents. I was a manager, I had business to do. Fuck you, Mkmirda. Hell, the first day of my first job was at a Hardee's. We were robbed. It was really obvious my manager had set it up as there was over $1,000 in my register and she wouldn't swap out the till. Then when the robber was running off, she yells out, "Wait, you forgot this," and gets the $50 and $100 bills from under the drawer. Then pretended to faint. After the police interviewed us, they just left. She expected me to finish my shift and I just laughed and walked out, never to return. You know NDAs are only good if you have the money to sue? Worked with a company that didn't pay me, so I told them their NDA didn't apply. They threatened to sue. My response: you can't even afford to pay me, you sure as hell can't afford to sue. They also don't extend to keeping you from reporting illegal activity to the justice system. Some places may try to make people believe that and may even try to imply it in the NDA, but it has no legal standing. I was a contractor for NASA. I still fully support the agency, but I was extremely bugged when I learned that each separate NASA center, for example, JPL, Kennedy, Ames, Goddard, hides many of its inventions and breakthroughs from the other centers so that when HQ is ready to assign a big mission, and a lot of dollars, to one center, they have a better chance to compete over the others. Look what we invented. Ames can't do this over there. Give us the next moon orbiter. The downside is that there is a ton of reinvention and duplicated efforts going on. Sometimes years of work go down the drain when another center does the same thing faster. My perspective was, you all work for NASA. Share knowledge, collaborate. I was frequently ordered to tone down anything revealing when speaking to other centers. That's not at all different from how the big national labs used to work. The rivalry between Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos is almost legendary. Supposedly they got better about sharing, but it wouldn't shock me if they were still up to the same hijinks. Not just true for NASA. True for many government agencies. The issue is that money is zero-sum, and if one program is getting money, it is getting cut from another program. So everyone is fighting to get their share and avoid having to make staffing cuts. Fixing this would probably require a fundamental change in the executive branch as well as the appropriations process. We would have to move from a leadership system in which you have new political appointees coming in every few years who aren't familiar with the programs to permanent leadership who are focused on making all the different sub-agency departments work synergistically. Appropriations would have to change to have predictable funding levels for each program for several years. I signed an NDA after negotiating a six-figure settlement with my mortgage lender. Back in 2013, the bank illegally sold my home, while I was living there and making monthly payments. I discovered this when new owners evicted me and my 3 kids. At the time, I thought someone was trying to steal my identity, etc. I spent the next 2 years writing legal documents and had to represent myself in court. The bank owned every legit legal firm I contacted. Also, the first lawyer I hired took my last $7,000 and was promptly disbarred for misconduct with previous cases. I had no money, no home, but I had a laptop, printer and access to the county court law library. We were about a week away from selecting a jury, when we came to a settlement agreement. In the end, each of my kids, now in their 20s, got an inexpensive new car and I live at the beach. Which bank? You ask. I can't tell you the name, but might I suggest that it rhymes with case. They settled because they were worried that if the case went to trial, it would become public. Then, everyone would know, for certain, that they had lied, cheated and swindled to steal homes from hard-working people. The bank would lose when no one took out new loans with them. Edit. I received a posting on my front door. I went to the eviction court and lost, because technically the new owners paid for my house. I was given 7 days to move all my stuff, had lived there 13 years, or face the sheriff. I had 3 kids. I didn't want the drama of handcuffs. So we packed and moved, then sought relief through the court system. I read for an audiobook when I was around 11 years old. We weren't allowed to talk about it until it was released. It was pretty cool going to an actual recording studio after being chosen, especially for my age. I'm still bound, but insider trading is real and executives often step down or retire early for getting caught. This is something I could spend a lot of time diving into, but the subprime lending company I used to work for as a software engineer spent a lot of time and effort manipulating the UX of our various applications to encourage customers to accept loan terms that were not necessarily in their best interest. I quit pretty quickly after realizing that the people in charge had very little interest in actually supporting us and making a product that would be better for our customers. Please spend more time diving into this. It sounds super interesting. Be careful if your pet needs specific shampoo supplied by a pet salon at Right Gr Mink Salon. Last I worked there, they weren't letting us order anything and we had to try to track down shampoos from other stores before they'd let us buy anything. Meaning if your dog needed hypoallergenic shampoo or you were paying for an expensive upgrade, it's very possible that some of the products were unavailable. Oftentimes we would have the Furminator shampoo but no conditioner. And the conditioner is what reduces the shedding, so we just have to use regular dog conditioner. We couldn't stop selling these packages because that's what they base our performance on. I was considered a bad salon leader cause I wouldn't push these products we didn't have. Also, teeth brushing is absolutely useless there. It does not stop your dog's mouth from decaying at all, and you'd be better off buying an enzyme toothpaste from your vet and brushing your dog's teeth every day. The toothpaste we had basically was just to make your dog's breath seem better for a little while. Oh, and the reason a bunch of dogs died there is because people were likely not following the rules when handling dogs. Almost every salon I worked at had people like that. They aren't supposed to be kennelling your flat-faced dogs anymore because of it. They're also supposed to have a set of eyes on your dog at all time when they are tethered to the floor. Someone obviously neglected to do that a few months ago when that bulldog passed away. The training program their groomers go through is not very good either. They have 4 weeks to basically become full-fledged groomers and a week is spent on computers. There's never enough dogs to practice all of the cuts they should know. They also don't kick out trainees who repeatedly cut dogs. They try to normalize nicking dogs so they don't have to fire people. But there is no reason dogs should be getting hurt at a grooming salon if they follow the rules they're supposed to. The biggest problem is they barely pay anything to help you upkeep your tools, and dull tools cause injuries. With what they pay, people usually can't afford to sharpen most of their tools, so you're stuck with the bare minimum. Hid the name more. I once had to sign an NDA to get a price on a printer for my sign shop. This was a printer that was only sold by one distributor, by the way, so there wasn't even any direct competition on this particular model. I think their gimmick was that if they make a really big deal out of giving you this super secret pricing that you'd be lulled into thinking it was really something special. Edit. Interesting comment by you, Beard Stash Man below, who probably has the right idea as to what was going on with this practice. They weren't worried about you going to a different supplier. They wanted to be able to offer different prices to different customers. This is a concept called price discrimination and is a very common practice. I dug up some ancient bones, gold, and Mycenaean tombs. I couldn't discuss the finds until the institution who ran the archaeological dig could publish the data. You can read about it here. Edit to add, I am a classics student, not the one running the whole dig. But my role in it was very much legal and official law. We knew to dig there because there was another tomb next to it, and it's located near a big Mycenaean Bronze Age palace. I only dug there for one summer, but it was a blast. If you're interested in archaeology, you should see if there are any local groups that you can volunteer with. That married grocery store manager in his late 40s was, indeed, having sex with that 17-year-old courtesy clerk in the compressor room. This was 15+ years ago when I was a person in charge, and not yet a full assistant store manager. Our store in the back room had a couple of rooms upstairs, a large room that housed all of our electrical breakers and backup generators, and a room that housed all of our compressors that kept our freezers and coolers running. Both were locked at all times for security reasons. They were accessible only through the back room. The 17-year-old courtesy clerk, Bagger, had worked there for a while. She was, not the best worker. She had a habit of disappearing for a half hour or hour at a time. I, and the other picks complained and tried discipline, but the store manager blocked it. So, we just dealt with it. Yes, she was an attractive blonde. I was in charge one night and we got an alarm that one of the compressors was low. It was my job to check the level, record the compressor number, and turn it in. When I went up to the room, the door was propped open with a bucket. I assumed whoever worked in the room last left it open. If you have never been in a compressor room before, I have to tell you that it is loud. Our store had several diesel engines that powered the compressors. I proceed into the back of the room, come around the corner to see the girl, not quite naked, but not fully clothed, being serviced by our store manager, who had left for the day hours ago. Neither saw me and I hightailed it out of there. I wrestled with what to do. I was worried about my career at the time, so I called the security hotline and made an anonymous call and told them in vague terms what happened and that they should contact me about details. I'm 100% certain that they knew it was me that called. A couple of days later, the store manager is suspended, and I'm interviewed, the assistant store manager is interviewed, and the pics. They tell us not to discuss it, so of course we did. I was a little late to the party. Almost everyone knew. The store manager would use his store keys to come into the back room, meet the courtesy clerk, and then would hook up in the compressor room. She was not the first teenager he had done this with at this store and others. They fire the store manager, and like an idiot, he sues. Dozens of people are deposed, NDAs are drawn up and signed. He thinks better of it, drops the suit, and that's the last I ever heard of him. The girl quit right after the store manager was suspended. I was once an IT contractor for a now-defunct bureau within the Department of the Interior during the event Deepwater Horizon disaster. Since the department has its hands in offshore drilling, they were part of the response team and boots on the ground. Anyway, it's a little-known fact that all the extra stress plus aging IT equipment during the first 48 hours after the blowout took their entire authentication and email infrastructure down, Active Directory and Exchange, for 2 days. There were also other weird glitches from offices around the US not related to the outage. A switch going out here, building automation there. It was a fucking disaster. This was, of course, after years of emails and documentation stating they were heading that way. I was directly involved with recovering that infrastructure and the aftermath of dissolving the bureau. Which really wasn't anything special. They just became 3 different bureaus, got new email addresses, and continued on in their role under a new title.